Welcome into the In the Money podcast for Sunday, April 9th, third day of the Keeneland Spring Meet. Tom Leach, along with Jim Goodman, Keeneland's Director of Mutuals and Simulcasting. And the feature race on the Sunday card is the Grade 3 Beaumont for 3-year-old fillies, going a little more than 7 furlongs. You've got a couple of horses that were outstanding 2-year-old fillies last year, making their sophomore debuts. Who are you landing on for the Beaumont, Jim?
Well, one of those. I like Sweet Loretta coming out of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly. She's been off since November. Won the spin away, and I mean she was on a roll going into juvenile fillies, and did not run as well as they had hoped. Went off at 5-1 and got a bad start. And I think you just throw that out, and I think she's a standout in here if that race is erased. But coming back off a 5-month layoff, 6-month layoff, and not being off a good race. Dropping back to 7 furlongs, whereas the distance that she won the spin away at Saratoga last summer. So Pletcher will have her ready here, but I don't think she's a lock. I think My Mischief for Al Stahl has been very impressive in winning her maiden and coming back in an optional 30 at Fairgrounds at 6 furlongs. She seems to really want the extra distance out of Into Mischief, and so I think she moves up, so she's got a shot as well, sitting just off the pace. And then the other one, Dancing Rags, you got to take her because she won the Alcibiades last year here, and she was also disappointing in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. She wasn't as well regarded as Sweet Loretta was. Went off at 18-1, did not really get into the race. Again, she had trouble to start. So both those fillies, Sweet Loretta and Dancing Rags, are going to be fun to watch. It's going to be interesting to see them in the paddock, see how much they've filled out into their 3-year-old years. So going to be a nice race, but I think those 3 might get you through the pick 4.
Sweet Loretta's the one that I landed on also. She won a Grade 1 already, as has Dancing Rags. But I like the fact that Castellano, who rode her a couple of times last season, is signed back on to take this ride, that he wanted to stay with this filly. So Sweet Loretta is going to be my pick. Dancing Rags would also use. And Sine Wave is 2 for 2 coming in from the East Coast. And class test here, but might just be good enough. So I'm going to throw that one in as well. And then we also want to talk about the 7th race, which is not a stake only by name, because if you look at the caliber of the field, this allowance race on the turf is as good as a lot of stakes races you will find. We're going to talk about the late pick 4, but let's just talk about that 7th race. It's so strong, probably headed by Divisadero. Who do you like?
Yeah, I sent Ben Huffman an email when I looked at this card and said this may be the best allowance race I've ever seen. Every horse is running at least a Grade 3, and a number of them have run in Grade 1s with Grade 2 winners. Divisadero is a Grade 1 winner at Churchill last year, and he came out at Gulfstream this year and was well regarded, but he'd come off a layoff, and he got beat by Flatline, another horse in here. But I like Divisadero. The style seems to fit the mile and 16th. I think he's a mile maybe a little short for him, so I think it's his best distance. He's 2 for 4. But you cannot throw out very much here at all. Ployvin is a great horse coming out of the River City at Churchill, projected coming out of the Canadian Turf for Chad Brown, as they already had a race this year. Kygan off a little bit of a layoff at the Tampa Bay Grade 3. Thatcher Street, flatlined. I just couldn't narrow it down, and I think when we get to my pick 4, you'll see that I didn't narrow it down. I like Divisadero, but I like a lot of others in here, and this is an absolutely it won't be the best race of the weekend. I think that's going to be the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes. This may be the second best race of the weekend as far as a competitive betting race that's going to be a classy allowance race.
Think about any of the turf races in the Keeneland Spring Meet. A good place to start your handicapping is just circle the horses that are coming off Gulfstream. I think those races are so competitive down there. It's kind of like playing a team that plays a tough schedule. So you got Divisadero, Projected, Fire Away, and Flatline all coming off the Gulfstream circuit. I like Divisadero a lot, though, off the class drop, and I think it's going to be prime for a top effort coming back here to trainer Buff Bradley's home ground in Central Kentucky. I like the bullet work last time, too, that tells me this horse is sitting on his top race. So Divisadero with the other 3 that I mentioned in exactas, and also I think maybe I'll try one with Divine Oath as well, a horse that's got some back class. Pick 4, a lot of these Keeneland races, you run into that challenge of trying to find a single, and so you just got to take a stand at some point. And I think for me, I could go one of 2 ways. could have singled in the last race with Morocco coming off that second to Dover Cliffs, who looks like a really nice one for Clement. And Morocco was second to that one last time. But I ended up singling Divisadero. And I know you just said you're going to go deeper there. I'm going to single Divisadero. I'm going to take as many as your budget will allow in the first leg. I'm going to go 9, 3, 4, 7, 11, and 15. 15 probably won't get in. But that's Swift One is the win pick for me on the class drop for Wesley Ward. But I couldn't find a standout in here. I'm going to single Divisadero. Going to use Sweet Loretta, Dancing Rags, Sine Wave, and the one you mentioned for Al Stahl, the 2-horse in there. And then in the last race, I'm going to use Morocco, Brooklyn Bobby, and Our City, all coming out of Florida. How about you?
I'm going to give you a little different angle here. I'm going to go light in the first race, and I like Swift One, Wesley's horse. He's got another one in here, but I think this one dropping for 20 off a good effort, optional 25 at Turfway. Question mark, obviously, is no dirt experience. He's only been on Polytrack. So in that vein, I'm going to throw in a horse coming out of Mahoning Valley called Baseball and Bourbon. How can you not bet Baseball and Bourbon this time of year? So Ted Lucas is a decent little trainer, and I think Declan Cannon is a great rider, and he may be due for a big meet here at Keeneland. So I'm going to use 8, 9, Baseball and Bourbon, and Swift One in the first. I'm going to do an all in the 7th. I really couldn't narrow it down. I think the Divisadero is my favorite, but I just think you cannot throw out any of them. So I either was going to go Divisadero or all, and I'm taking all here. So it's going to be an expensive ticket. Going to narrow it down a little bit in the 8th. The 3 horses I talked about. Sweet Loretta would be my top pick. The 3, and I'll use the 2, My Mischief, and the 5, Dancing Rags. So 3 deep there. And in the 9th race, I think 2, 3, 6, Brooklyn Bobby, Morocco, your pick, and Arklow, the 6. First time on turf is an interesting angle, and Brad Cox and Castellano is a nice combination. Brooklyn Bobby is a horse that was well touted at Gulfstream last out, and I think he fits the pattern of coming out of Gulfstream racing. And if that race is better, Morocco also came out of a Gulfstream race, and those two to me are kind of standouts in that last race. I threw in Arklow because he's an unknown quantity. So my pick 4 is 8, 9 with all, with 2, 3, 5, with 2, 3, 6 for $81.
I will add one other note here on that last race, mentioning those Gulfstream shippers. Sometimes if you just box those horses in one of the turf races coming off Gulfstream, it might give you 3 to 5 horses in a race, and there will be 1 or 2 of them that might get overlooked. And I think there's a horse called Marscapone in here, the 12, I think for Romans,
yep.
That is has some bad form at Gulfstream, but those are tough races. And sometimes you could just box 1, 2, 3, 12 there, and you might catch the 12 at a big price, getting up for second sometimes. So just something to think about as you go through your handicapping here at the spring meet at Keeneland. Best of luck on your wagers. If you can't get out to the track, you can play through Keeneland Select, and we'll be back next week to continue our daily podcast for the spring meet here on the In the Money podcast for KeenelandSelect.com.